a monster.
I'm your number one fan.
Now clear your minds. Knows what scares you. It has from the very beginning.
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
It's been informed that zombies have entered the building. They're at the door. They're coming in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Midnight Monster Corner podcast. I'm your host, as always, Corey, and alongside me is my good pal, Tony. What's going on, brother? How you been?
Been better now, dude. That's why I feel like we haven't recorded in a while, because I've been kind of ill.
Oh, yeah.
Got COVID, and that wasn't fun, so I was out of it for a little while. But yeah, now I'm feeling a lot better, and I'm so glad to be back, man. I missed recording with you, bud. We have so much fun when we record and stuff like that, and then not recording for a couple of weeks, just trying to recoup from that kind of sucked. So I'm really, really excited and really happy to be back. I feel like we haven't done one of these in a while, so the fact that we're able to go tonight is it's phenomenal, man. I'm happy.
Oh, yeah. Well, we've had some hiccups in our, not only were you just, like I said, you sick, but, just everything hasn't been falling in line,
Yeah.
Like we've, the kids are out of school, so we're a little bit busier. So, but, thankfully we've got a fan base that understands, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm a big family man. We've already been on like 2 vacations this summer, right before, school starts and everything. So
Same here. Yeah. We went up to North Carolina on a little vacation, me and my boys. So that was a blast and stuff like that. We had a great time. So yeah. Just summer, summer gets a little chaotic and hectic with kids being out when you planning on stuff with them, and it can be a little harder to record, but whenever we are able to record, it's fun because we still are covering some really, really fun movies and enjoying talking about them and dissecting them and really get meat of them. So yeah, especially this one. This one's going to be fun discussion tonight.
yeah. I'm So folks, we're covering Scream. Honestly, Tony, I don't remember what year this came out, and I was gonna say
1996.
96. Okay. Yeah. I remember watching it when it first came out. And honestly, I haven't watched it since. I can't sit here and definitively say that I've watched it since, to tell you the truth. So this was kind of like a first time watch again for me. I mean, I knew, who the killer, I guess we can go say killers were, and I know the storyline of the second movie, but honestly, I haven't watched any of the sequels. None of them. Yeah. So, and I've got them. I need to get on the ball and watch them. But yeah.
I need to upgrade them. I have them all, but they're on DVD. I need to get that combo Blu-ray pack that they have out there. It's floating around.
Who put that out? Who put the Blu-ray out?
I know Scream is like a Miramax thing. I'm not quite sure exactly who put out that edition. I can see the front of it with the ghost face on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's got, I think, the first 4 films, because the 5th film wasn't made at that point. So
yeah,
it's got the first 4. I do have the 5th one on Blu-ray because I bought it separately when it came out. But all the other ones I haven't upgraded, so it's something I'm definitely gonna have to do soon. Because I definitely want. I was thinking about it, man. Watching this one, I do want to give the sequels a try because I haven't seen the sequels in a while. So
yeah,
the last one I saw was the 4th one. Other than the 5th one, of course, but the 4th one was the last one I saw. I haven't watched the 2nd one and 3rd one very often. 3rd one's probably the one I've watched the least.
But you told me that one wasn't like your favorite, right?
Probably the lowest rated one out of the franchise, to be honest with you. It's probably the weakest one, I'd say. Which is funny because I remember distinctively being a kid and seeing a scene from the 3rd Scream that really kind of stuck with me for a long time. I never really forgot it. It stuck with me for, it's still I still think about that scene and where I was when I was a child and how young I was seeing that. And I was like, oh, I'm not supposed to be watching this at this age, but for some reason I saw it. It was on TV or something. And
Mhm.
yeah, stuck with me. But that's the ironic thing is it's from the third one, and the third one's probably the one I like the least. So
Nice.
it's just kind of funny how that all.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1996, Wes Craven, the horror legend, the master that he is.
Mhm.
This was a milestone movie in the horror genre. A lot of people say that it saved horror. It's the movie that revitalized the horror genre because at that point, a lot of people say that horror was kind of stagnant and wasn't getting a lot of traction like it used to in the 80s when it was booming and
Mhm.
made so much money for studios. This is the movie that got the ball rolling, and then of course after this movie, the slew of imitators that came out after this one.
Yeah.
All the like late 90s, early 2000s slasher boom, the revival or
Mhm.
whatever. I Know What You Did Last Summer, Urban Legend, movies like that, Cherry Falls, movies like that
Yeah.
came after it. So it was a pivotal movie in the genre, and it did do a lot for the genre.
Mhm.
Honestly. So yeah,
I-
I'm excited, man. I can't wait to discuss this bad boy.
Me personally, I can see that to an extent. I think if anything, it definitely saved the subgenre of slasher.
Yeah.
You know, because like you said, it kind of brought a whole new slew of things, and then of course, you had your spoof that came off of it as well.
Yeah,
Scary Movie,
Yeah.
which I love those films too.
they're great, man. I want to say the first three were amazing.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember watching those as a younger kid, and just
Mhm.
even then, I didn't get all the jokes that they were referencing, but still, I was cracking up, and at that age, I was laughing.
Oh, it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Definitely funny stuff. Yeah. I think that like I said though, it definitely helped, And then of course, it was along with the big name that was associated with it, Wes Craven, which I think that I look back and watching it this go round and the funny nods to Wes Craven and stuff throughout this movie and stuff like that. I really think that this was perfect for him. Because I couldn't see Carpenter making this movie. I couldn't see Romero making this movie or anything like this. Some of the big names, but definitely Wes Craven. It was some of the stuff in it was a little tongue in cheek almost, which was perfect because it was very subtle for it,
Mm.
And it was like I said, like it was mainly towards like jokes against him, kind of, because you even brought one up that I didn't even realize. Well, I forget which one it was, but I noticed the one where Krueger was in the hallway, but it wasn't Krueger, but he, Henry Winkler popped out and he said, "Damn little shits," and all of a sudden you hear a guy go, "What'd you call me?" and it pans over and there's a guy wearing Freddy Krueger's hat and the shirt, and he was like, "Nothing, Freddy."
Nothing, Fred. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that was Wes Craven too in the outfit.
Yeah, you're right. That
Yeah.
was him.
That's even funny. The fact that it is him playing up that joke is brilliant. But I think a lot of credit goes to Craven and the script by Kevin Williamson, which I think is one of the best scripts. I mean, it's so detailed and so amazing. And I think the marriage of those two making this film was like lightning in a bottle in a sense, where they captured something so unique. I mean, meta horror has been done before this point, but this is honestly the one that really like catapulted it into mainstream and really, really took off. And a lot of the tropes that mainstream people know about horror films came from Scream. Like they covered just about all of them, and people that aren't horror fans know about the rules to survive in a horror film, and it all is attributed to in Kevin Williamson's script that I just think is perfect. I don't see anything wrong with it at all.
Yeah. Well, I love that how they base the kills around that, the rules of the slasher film. I love it. And it's brought up in this film, because Randy talks about it.
Yeah, Randy.
I love it.
Yeah. He's the guy that knows all. He knows all the things.
Well, it's funny that we, because we've joked around it on this podcast, and we've talked about Randy and how he is like the ultimate like person in this film because he's the horror guy, right?
Yep.
In reality, he's not the only horror guy in this movie. Billy and Stu is as well.
Yeah, they know a lot.
They have a lot of knowledge when it comes to the horror film and the genre itself. So it's kind of cool. You actually have three aspects when we always talked about just the one aspect because we always, I guess we just kind of related to Randy.
Right, yeah.
Which I wanted to go ahead and bring up. And I, shoot me if you will, fans or, listeners or viewers of our episodes. But I've always said, Randy died in the first movie, and in fact, he doesn't, and I didn't realize that. I always thought he died in the first movie, but no, actually, it's the sequel.
Yeah, and that's our big joke on the podcast is Randy. Yeah, what happened?
That's so terrible.
Yeah,
I've always thought it was the first movie. I don't know, just something stuck with me thinking that it was the first movie.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's not for lack of trying, though, but he does end up surviving it. I mean, and like I said, like always, we just want to throw out the spoiler warning. We're going to be talking a lot of spoilers. I can't imagine too many people that haven't seen Scream, but if you haven't and you want to check it out, please do, and then come back and join us in the discussion and have a good time with us. But, yeah, I just want to throw that out there because we're probably going to be – we definitely are going to be spoiling a lot of aspects of this movie. And, if you haven't seen it for whatever reason, check it out, please, and come back to us.
Yeah, definitely. And what's you say that you say that you think that a lot of people have seen this movie by now, but in all honesty, I mean, I'm wondering if it's it's kind of almost forgotten gem. The mainstream audience these days might not even know about this movie.
There's still people I talk to that aren't horror fans that mention Ghostface with the other icons like Jason and Freddy.
Yeah, he's right up there. But it's because of the big boom in the 90s. I mean, Wes Craven made Ghostface what it is. And it is iconic. Hell, my wife got me a little horror blanket and it's right next to Pennywise on there.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'll have to show it to you. It's pretty sick.
The funny thing is with the look of Ghostface, they always say that, and it even makes a play in the movie where, it's just a cheapo Halloween costume that there's so many of them that have been sold and stuff like that. So there's nothing really special about it. So the fact that they were able to make something special and iconic out of something that's so generic and mass produced by that everybody has a chance to get this costume and stuff like that. It's really cool. It makes it even more special because it's something that's so generic, supposed to be so generic in the plot, that makes it so iconic.
Mm-hmm. Well, what other movie was that done in?
Scary movies.
Halloween.
Halloween, of course, yeah.
Halloween.
Oh, I thought you meant, okay.
Yeah, because
definitely Halloween.
Because they mentioned that you can get that mask anywhere, the Michael Myers mask.
And look
I believe in the sequel. Right? Because they talked about how they accidentally killed that one kid that was dressed up.
Oh, Ben Tramer, yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's true, man. Halloween kind of set the precedent, but I mean that makes sense too because this movie's so meta and it has so many callbacks to original classics. So that makes complete and total sense to me that they were able to swing that.
I remember the year that this movie came out,
God, yeah.
And Halloween, when Halloween happened, dude, those masks were on every shelf.
Everybody. I remember even when because I was a little bit younger when this movie. I was literally a child when this movie
Mhm.
came out. But I still remember even in the early 2000s when I have a vague memory of my Halloweens and stuff like that, how many Ghostface outfits there were. There were so many.
Yeah.
And there was more Ghostface than hockey masks, which is bizarre and crazy to me. But
Mhm.
no, that was the case, and I distinctly remember a lot of them for multiple years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's put its stamp on pop culture. This movie for sure.
Yeah.
It's really really prevalent in mainstream society as much as it is in the horror, fan genre, horror society.
Mhm.
For us horror fans, I mean, it's just as iconic. So, but yeah, man, like I said, can't wait to dive into it. I can't wait to talk about even the beginning, the opening scene in this movie has got to be one of the most iconic openings in any horror film of all time.
It even has the catchphrase, what's your favorite scary movie?
Scary movie. I mean, this opening scene is flat out brilliant.
Mhm.
Everything about it is flat out brilliant. The acting is brilliant. The direction, brilliant. The
Yeah.
screenplay, the dialogue, absolutely brilliant. Everything hits completely out of the park, and that's one of my favorite things to do is just watch the opening to this movie and just be enthralled by it. And it's been spoofed so many times in so many movies.
Yeah, it has.
It's just incredible. And the fact that I think one of the most brilliant things is the fact that Wes Craven, he leads into you thinking Drew Barrymore is going to be the lead character in this movie. And then her getting killed off
Mhm.
so early on in the film, really for the time. And when this movie came out, a lot of people were shocked by that because they saw Drew Barrymore. I mean, a lot of people didn't know who Neve Campbell was at this time.
She was upcoming, yeah.
Upcoming, yeah, but she wasn't as big, of course, as Drew Barrymore, man. Drew Barrymore was huge.
So, dude, Drew Barrymore was like my crush.
Oh God, dude,
I was crushing on her hard.
But the fact of the matter is, her name is plastered all over the poster and everything. So the marketing, they're leading you to believe that she's going to be the main character in the movie, and then they kick off in the first 10 minutes of the movie. It's insane.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It was first 10, 15, 20 minutes. It's hard to believe, but yeah, they pull the rug out from under you. They do the Psycho thing. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
So done.
Got rid of her quick.
The lead up to it is great, though.
Yeah.
Honestly, is the opening sound of the phone call and just seeing the scream and then that phone ringing. It's just, oh man, it's amazing. It gives me goosebumps, dude. It's like I said, I think you couldn't have done an opening scene better than Wes Craven did in Scream.
Yeah. Well, that line always stuck with me too. The not the infamous "What's your favorite scary movie," but the one where he's like, "If you hang up on me again, I'm gonna gut you like a fish." Man, that right there, that whole sequence, that's the pivoting moment right there. That's when she started realizing, I'm screwed. Something's happening here.
Because it's not playful anymore. It's sincere now. We've gotten sick. And a lot of that has to do with Roger Jackson's voice, man. Roger Jackson's Ghostface voice is iconic. It is absolutely iconic. You hear that tone, that voice, and you know exactly what it's from, and you know exactly who that is. I mean, it never. Dude, his voice was perfect. Like I said, everything hit perfectly with this movie. The casting, who they got. I mean, this is just one of those things. I know I've read. Actually, I watched the panel. I think it was Texas Frightmare panel where Matthew Lillard and Skeet Ulrich were there, and they were talking about the movie, and they were saying to the people in the audience, like, "Hey, we never expected this little movie to do anything. We honestly expected it to fail." The fact that it became such a insanely popular thing just completely floored them, and they did not expect it.
Yeah. Well, and that's I could see somebody thinking that because in the 90s the subgenre of the slasher was pretty much dead. I mean, there was a few like Nightmare on Elms and Friday the 13th that were trying to trickle out, but I mean it was gone. Um but there was always that fan base that was just waiting and wanting more. And this I think fed into that. And then like you said, it appealed to a mainstream audience, and I think that's what made its love happen.
Well, yeah.
This movie came out at the right time, because had it not come out, either way, because if it had came out around the Blair Witch Project, I think that might have set people wanting that a little bit more. Kind of like what was the movie that came out on the same day Star Wars came out? I forget what movie that was, but it was like a really good horror film that flopped because Star Wars, I forget what movie that was, but it was a big deal. See? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll have to figure out what movie that was, but yeah.
I think you're honestly right, Corey. I think this movie came out at the perfect time. I think if it would have came out a little bit later or a little bit earlier, it wouldn't have worked.
Mm-mm.
And I was thinking of horror in the early 90s. I mean, really the only couple slasher films I could think of are maybe Dr. Giggles and Candyman, if you would even call it the slasher film. I mean, it's Spook 2 came out in, I think, 92, 93 maybe. And like I said, those were the real standouts and at that time. So the fact that this came out in 96, just a couple of years after, it's incredible. I mean, Dr. Giggles was a little different, where they added a lot of humor and there was a lot of puns and stuff like that, but it wasn't, I guess, as meta of a movie as Scream is, because of the the genre and everything. So yeah, I mean, I think honestly, you're right. I think it came out at the perfect time. It worked for the meta. Like I said, meta's been done before, but Scream, I think, perfected it.
They really did. And I think it comes down to not and to kind of piggyback a little off of what you said earlier. It's not so much just the writing and everything. Like, the writing plays a big portion in it, but the way it was delivered, the screenplay, the cinematography, and even the dialogue between the characters. The characters are what made the dialogue pop in this movie.
Oh yeah,
because I mean that sequence when they were, or scene, I guess you would say, where they're sitting around kind of like in a courtyard. It's almost like a kind of like a lunchtime or whatever. And
I call it the fountain scene.
Okay.
Right by the fountain. Yeah.
Yeah. So that scene, and just that moment where they're talking about Drew Barrymore's death and stuff, and they're talking about it, and they're like, well, maybe you're the killer. Well, maybe you're the killer. That whole scene was perfect.
Perfect.
I love the close up on Randy's face where he's like, did you nibble on her spleen a little bit before you cut it out? And
did they find her liver in the mailbox? Because I heard they found her liver in the mailbox. The way he says it.
Yeah. It was amazing. But yeah, I love his dialogue there. At that moment, I think that he knew he was onto something. I think he knew all along that those two, or maybe he was fighting with himself to think that one of them was a killer.
Can we talk complete spoilers? Because there's so much I want to bring up with that fountain scene that I can't bring up unless we bring up who the killers are. And
yeah,
I mean, are we full on spoilers at this point?
Yeah.
We've given time. We already did the disclaimer.
They should have turned us off and watched the movie.
Okay. So when you look at that scene alone, the looks that Billy and Stu give each other while they're discussing that, you can tell, because when Stu gets a little descriptive, Billy gives him that look like, dude, shut the fuck up. Don't say anything else. That's why he says it's called tack, you fuck rag. Like, he's telling him, like, dude, chill out, because people are going to get suspicious of us if we keep this up. So he's kind of playing it off like, dude, you need to chill out. And Stu kind of picks up on it. He's like, all right, I need to reel it back a little bit. Because you can tell they have an overarching plan, and they don't want to, they don't want to sell themselves out too quickly. I mean, of course they have a plan in place. We see it at the end of the movie, but that is the most brilliant thing about. I wouldn't say the most brilliant thing about the movie. That's one of the things I've noticed watching it the last couple times. If you watch their characters closely, you can see that they're giving each other like hints and looks that's letting them know what's going on. Like, there's a scene at the end, and I'm not trying to get too far ahead, but when Billy pops up at Stu's house for the party, Billy gives him that look like, yeah, she's dead. And Stu's like, okay. And then Stu kind of invites him in to go upstairs with Sidney so he can start his plan, his part of it. And it's just the interwoven character arcs between them two is so well done, dude. It's magnificent when you know. I think it's really cool watching the movie the first time when you find out who the killers are. But I think this movie has precedent to when you watch it more and more and you see their little moments that they have together to see like, oh shit, man, these two are really fucking crazy and they're psychos. But they have a really good plan and they know what they're doing. And they know to kind of communicate they communicate that to each other, sometimes non-verbally. So they're really good. They're a really good pair. And I just think that whole fountain scene, which I love, that you brought up, you can tell that Billy keeps giving him that look like, stop. Chill out. Like, and I love that. I love that about it because it makes sense, because at the end of the day, Billy is the more suave. He's the more elite. He's the leader, of course. He's the plan.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. He's the mastermind of it all, really. And he's the only one with the motive. Yeah.
Well, I think because I think Stu has a motive too, because that's why I think they killed Casey and her boyfriend, because they make a point to say that Stu used to date Casey and she dumped for her boyfriend, who also gets killed. So I think Billy was kind of helping him out there because he wanted a little bit of revenge for her dumping him and then starting to go out with Steve. So I think there's a little bit of motivation on Stu's part for that opening kill as well. Because I know for a fact that that's Stu that kills Steve, the boyfriend. I know for a fact that's him. Because Billy's on the phone with Casey while there's no way he could be on the phone, gut the guy. She turns the light on, he's gone. It had to have been Stu, and it had to have been Stu doing that. So I think it was more personable for Stu to get that kill.
Yeah.
But like I said, the fact that it has a lot to do with how Billy feels, and I'll get into that when we get into the end. I don't want to bring that up just now, but yeah, there's subtle differences that I've noticed throughout the years of watching this movie that I can tell who is who during a kill and who's killing who. So I can pretty much figure out Stu's body count to Billy's body count.
Yeah, that's cool. And like I said, maybe if I watched it a little bit more and paid a little more attention to it, because I went into this kind of new. I mean, I knew who the killers were, but I wanted to, because I hadn't watched it since I was like 12, so I wanted to go into it with fresh eyes a little bit.
Well, that's why I pay more attention to it, because I've seen this movie so many times.
Yeah.
Since I first seen it, that I really wanted to see when Billy was killing and when Stu was killing, and what the difference is. And then to your point, who's more clumsy, Stu or Billy? Yeah. Obviously, Stu is a little bit more clumsy, but Billy is also kind of clumsy too. So there's little things in each one of them do that kind of is like, oh, that's Stu in that scene, or oh, that's Billy in that scene.
Yeah. I felt that I could pick that out because of the clumsiness, like you said, because I feel that Stu is a lot more clumsier.
Yeah.
Where, like, to your point, you said that, Billy's a little more suave. He's
more.
Yeah. But with that being said, I saw both sides where I could see where they're both clumsy. Or
Well,
maybe Billy tries to act clumsy to kind of throw people off a little bit. Like there is just one person killing when in fact there's two.
So I'll tell you, and I've been wanting to talk to you about this since we started recording, but I can tell you what the tell is between the two. You notice that when Ghostface has the blade up and he's holding it like that, that's Stu. Stu always does that. Stu is always picking the blade up and holding it in a downward fashion. If he's going to stab or strike anybody, he's holding the blade like that. If you notice, when Ghostface holds the blade like this in his right hand, he kind of holds it like that. That's Billy, because that's how Billy holds the blade. So each one of them holds the blade different. And you'll notice throughout the movie that Ghostface holds the blade in a different way, and that's because he's two people. So whenever you see, like, I can tell that Principal Hembry is killed by Billy because of the way he's holding the blade. But I can also tell, like Billy killed Tatum. Like you can tell that was Billy, because Stu is hosting the party while Billy is doing that kill. So it's really interwoven. I think that's what's brilliant about this movie. It's just it's insane. And when Ghostface attacks Sydney in her home for the first time, that's Stu, because he holds the blade like that. You can tell it's Stu. And you kind of knew it was Stu anyway, because Billy was on the phone with her. The only time Stu really gets on the phone is when Billy's locked up, and Stu calls Dewey and Tatum's house to talk to Sydney, so that way she can think that Billy's innocent because he's in jail, but he's not doing anything.
Or did Billy use his one call? Because remember, there's reference to that.
That's a good point. That is a good point. And I thought about it this time around, and I can't really tell, because I honestly think that Billy told Stu to kind of call her to throw her off a little bit, because he wanted to come off as innocent. Because she was kind of getting suspicious of him because of when the phone dropped out of his hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what I love this movie so much, man. You can it's kind of like what we talked about The Thing. There's so many things you can talk about and kind of break down. And I wonder what this meant or this. And that's why I love movies like that, because they make you, even if you've seen them 500 times, it doesn't matter. You can still talk about some things. Like, what were they trying to do here and there? That's why movies like this are so fascinating to me.
I'm really just amazed that they didn't try killing Randy off immediately.
Right.
Because he's a threat. Like, let's face it, within the matter of just a couple minutes of this film, he already named your killers.
I think it was an ego thing for Billy and Stu. I think that they kind of wanted to get away with it under his nose, so they could say, hey, we beat the guy that knows all there is to know about horror and stuff like that. It's like an ego kind of thing for them. I don't know. I'm probably off on this and that. That's probably not the only reason, but that is a good question. Like, why because they were going to frame Sydney's dad for everything.
Yeah.
They didn't need him to be like, they weren't going to frame him. So really, why keep him around, or why keep him, why keep him in the picture as long as that's a good point, because they didn't plan on framing him for the murders.
Maybe he was a backup plan.
Maybe.
Like, we could frame him if this plan goes to shit, kind of like Plan B.
Yeah, could be, because they make a point in the very iconic video store scene. You could say every scene in this movie is iconic. But in the video store scene, when they're throwing accusations at each other, Billy tells him straight up, like, maybe it's you. Your freaked out movie mind cracked and you couldn't handle it anymore, so you started killing and this and that. So he's kind of throwing that out there, like, hey, like, it could easily be you. And I think honestly he would let Stu know, like, hey, dude, this could be our fallback plan.
Yeah.
Because if you notice, when he's talking to Randy, Billy's talking to Randy, Stu's behind him, and they're looking at each other, and it's just like they're not communicating verbally; they're just giving each other a look. And I think that's what's cool about this movie. It's their dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that too. I picked up on that quite a bit.
And I don't know. I've heard this theory, but I've heard a theory that Stu was going along with this because he was in love with Billy. There's a theory out there that he kind of had some homosexual tendencies toward Billy, and he was in love with him, and he was going through with everything. It's just a theory. I mean, there's a lot of theories out there.
But then the opening sequence of the film doesn't make sense to me then.
Why's that?
Because if he's secretly gay, then why kill a chick that dumped him for another man? Unless he had feelings for the other man.
There's another reason that they killed Casey. There's
Okay.
another reason they killed Casey. Because if you notice, Casey sat right next to Sydney in her class. I think they killed her too to kind of get under Sydney's skin a little bit. Because it's even mentioned in dialogue where Tatum's talking to Sydney about what happened, and Sydney's like, "Oh my God, she sits right next to me in such and such class. I can't remember what class it was." And then there's a scene where she's looking at the empty desk.
Mm-hmm.
Usually sits, and it's fucking with her mind. So she's got this. She's heightened. Her sense of reality is heightened, and not really thinking about it. So I think that's another reason that they killed Casey.
And then it kind of brings her and Tatum closer, as well, because now that this has happened, it kind of set the tone for everything. It was like almost like Billy and Stu kind of knew what murdering Casey was going to do. Yeah. You know, there's going to be a town curfew, school's going to get canceled. You know,
you got to think this is one of the most popular girls in school, and this is a very popular athlete in school. So killing them is like big publicity and big, big draw. Like as soon as they get killed, look at all the reporters that show up to the school wanting to get a story and wanting to figure out what's going on. And this is
every serial killer wants to be famous.
Exactly. So I think there's multiple reasons why I think they went after Casey and Steve first.
Mm.
You know, so I think that's just one of. But no, that I've heard that theory out there that Stu is just harboring some feelings to Billy, and that's why he's so devoted to him, and that's why he's so. But I honestly think they're just two whacked out minds that just play off each other perfectly and could.
Well, I think Billy is the alpha. He's got. I don't think that there's a secret love for somebody or anything like that. I think it just boils down to they're probably really close friends, and Stewie will just follow his best friend to the end.
Well, I think about it in the
Billy.
terms of.
Well, Billy is Billy has the motive, because it's even mentioned. Well, what's your motive? And he was like, he just told me what to do.
Brilliant! It really is brilliant what he says. Peer pressure. I love that. I love when he says that to her.
And I think that's it.
He's like, I'm far too sensitive. I think it's fucking brilliant. I love his. Let me tell you something. Matthew Lillard in this movie is fucking brilliant.
Oh yeah.
Everything that he's doing is really to character for what he's playing. He's so committed and so into this role that he really elevates that character more than it should be. He really does. And I think it's so funny because he's so outlandish and then Billy's kind of cool. So their dynamic is completely different. But they play so well off each other at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, they're kind of opposites. You know, and it falls hand in hand with the whole peer pressure thing, because Billy is more of a leader, you know, and he leads by example, and then you've got Stu, who is a follower. You know, I don't think he has he doesn't lead the team at all. He follows Billy, and that's where I think that comes in play.
Yeah. There's another theory that I've heard out there. At the end, when they're stabbing each other to kind of look like they have some wounds from the attack, Billy is stabbing Stu a lot more, and I think he's trying to cut loose ends with Stu. He's actually trying to kill him. I
think Stu would crack under pressure if he was in a interrogation room. You know,
because if you notice, he's going a lot harder on Stu than Stu is on him.
Mm-hmm.
I think Stu thought, like, hey, we're going to stab each other one time. Billy stabbed him multiple times. He's like, yo, dude, I'm fucking dying here. Like, I'm freaking out. Like, the fuck,
I feel a little woozy here, man.
Here. Like, oh, my God, dude, he's so good in this. He is so good in this, man.
Yeah.
His lines are so iconic.
I like how he's laying around. My favorite moment this whole movie is when he's laying there like dying and everything, and Billy hands him the phone, and he's like, "Did you really call the cops?"
My mom and dad are gonna be so mad at me. That's so fucking great, dude. So that whole scene is great because when Billy loses his mind and hits him with the phone, he's like, you hit me with the phone, you dick. But that was not script. That was ad-libbed by Matthew Lillard because he wants to get hit with the phone. So he said, when I guess when Craven, when they saw that, he's like, that was fucking great. Like, I'm keeping that in. I'm not fucking losing that.
The way that you explained how Craven is behind the camera, I wonder if he kind of smirked and he was like, "That's good."
That might have been the most emotion you ever got out of him. I don't know. It was so funny though. The whole scene, it's such a serious moment, but it's just like that's what happens, man. This movie does mix a lot of that serious tone with some humor.
It
There's a
does.
lot of times I find myself laughing at just their mannerisms and how they're acting. Like just Randy and Stu alone will have you fucking cracking up in this movie.
Yeah.
Just them two characters alone.
They were I would say that those two were the comical relief of the film. That's why, and I that's why I said earlier on, I really felt like a sense of tongue in cheek with this film, and it stems from those two characters right there, hands down. Especially like if they're together, because even like when Randy's going over the the infamous rules of a slasher film. And then he's like the final rule: no one should ever say, "I'll be right back." Yeah, and then
Dude's like, "I'm gonna go get him here. You want one?"
And he's like, "I'll be right back."
Be right back, and goes through the door, and everyone's like, "Oh!" He's pointing at their dynamic is great too, man. It really is.
Yeah,
it's so brilliant, man. There's
honestly, I feel like I feel like everyone in that little group is like perfect friends, except for Billy. I think Billy's just the guy that's there,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's really strange how he kind of fits in that group because everyone else just, is laughing, having a good time, and Billy's the more serious tone, and he also has the real creep factor behind him.
Yeah, I mean, when he comes in a room and he's like, "I was watching The Exorcist and it made me think of you," right away you're like, "That's fucking weird." No one's gonna go and sneak into their girlfriend's house and drop a line on them that, "Hey, I was watching The Exorcist and it reminded me of you." Where the fuck did that come from?
Yeah,
it's so good though because he goes into like this kind of monologue about their lack of physical intimacy. And he's like, "Yeah, it was edited for TV, and it was making me think of you because you're edited like our relationship is edited. Like we're not doing any. What do you say? We're doing above the clothes stuff, but not under the clothes stuff," which I thought was really neat.
Yeah,
they were kind of talking about the relationship, saying like, "I thought we were heading for an R rating, but we're just more of a PG-13 or something like that." And
no. He says he says
She says that she's like PG-13.
Yeah.
She shows him. She flashes him. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty clever.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah. Good stuff.
It seems kind of unnatural to what some high schoolers would say to each other, but the fact that it's so meta makes sense. I mean, you kind of look past it and you're like, oh, it's a meta horror film, so they're gonna say some off the wall outlandish stuff, and maybe like Billy, Stu, and Randy were serious horror fans. Like they were. That's what the sense I get anyway, because they know so much. Like especially Randy, of course, but even Billy knows a lot about horror films because they're quizzing Casey on the phone, and he's like, who's the killer in Friday the 13th? And she says Jason. And they're like, oh, sorry, wrong answer, because we all know that Mrs. Voorhees is the killer in the original. Yep. So, I mean, it's just perfect. It's perfect, man. The way that this script was written.
Yeah, like I said, like you said, we both said it really, but like, I think that they just knew their shit as far as horror. That's why I said.
Another thing that works is it appeals to a mainstream audience that doesn't necessarily even watch horror, because everybody knows who Michael Myers is. Everybody knows who Jason Voorhees is, so they can kind of get into the questions too. People that aren't necessarily horror fans, and they can kind of guess on who the answers are too. Like it's more, it's appealing to both horror fans and just mainstream fans.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's cool that Craven was able to do that by taking like the simplest, like the easy, for the questions he was asking, like the most astute horror fan will know, no problem.
Yeah.
But a lot of mainstream people might not, they might forget who the killer is in the original Friday the 13th. They might just assume that it's Jason because he is the face of that franchise. So it's just clever how he picked Friday the 13th and not anything else.
Yeah.
Just the fun with it.
Yep. Yeah, I like how they did that.
It's clever.
Yeah,
Really
it is quite clever, yeah.
I like when Casey is on the phone with him, and she says, "Oh, I'm about to." I wrote this down because I was like, "That's an interesting way of putting it." She's like, "Yeah, I'm going to sit down and watch a video." She says a video, not a movie. She says a video. That's interesting because she's, of course, watching a VHS tape.
Mm-hmm.
I never hear people say I'm about to pop in a video. I always hear people say I'm about to watch a movie or I'm about to watch a film or something like that. They never say video. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Just speaks for the time this was made too. The VHS boom and yeah.
Bateman. Was that his name? Bateman?
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
I'm going to go return some videos.
You just don't hear that very often.
No.
That
That's
was
definitely a 90s reference right there.
90s reference, man.
Love it. Love it. I think we love it so much because it's it came out kind of in our time, I think that's why. And you've even said that you've been a fan of Dr. Giggles. I was turned on to Dr. Giggles way later on, in the 2000s.
Well, of course, I've never seen. At that point, I definitely have seen Scream before any of those. So
okay.
I wasn't even aware. Like for me, it was refreshing to see it because I wasn't as astute fan as I am now watching a movie where it's a meta movie about horror.
Mm-hmm.
So it really cut my teeth on watching, a lot of things because of Scream. Because again, I was young when I saw this, and like I said, I didn't know everything that I do now. I mean, obviously, I don't know everything. I mean, we're huge fans of horror. We know enough. So watching a movie like this before you know anything really is pretty unique. And I'm sure this movie has catapulted people into being horror fans.
I can see that, or even being fans of the slasher.
Whole new generation of kids and fans that didn't really think twice about it, and then seeing this, and it changed their mindset on horror, and maybe they became horror fans. I'm sure there's a lot of them out there that have said that. So
do you think there was fans that were of the genre that were turned off to this
because I know
of how meta it was?
Yeah, I know meta's the thing with horror. Like some horror fans can't stand meta in their horror, like they just hate it. So I'm sure that when this came out, it did turn some people off, and they weren't, especially knowing the fact that I could see like big horror fans at the time going into this thinking like, oh, this is Wes Craven directed a new film. He hasn't directed a hit in a long time. He directed Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, we're really excited and this and that. And then the tone and then the meta stuff probably turned them off. They were expecting probably a straightforward slasher film or something.
Yeah.
That's not. Yeah, but that's the brilliant thing about this movie is it's not just a straightforward slasher film. There's so much more to it than that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I appreciated about it. If I wanted to watch a generic slasher film, I'd watch a movie that was inspired by Scream that came out afterwards.
Yeah.
Because that's pretty much what those were. They were generic. There was so much more to Scream than those movies. That's why it stands out. Other than, I Know What You Did Last Summer and Urban Legend. I kind of like Urban Legend though. But yeah, those movies are more generic, to be honest with you. Let's see how there's I Know What You Did Last Summer, Cherry Falls, Urban Legend, and Valentine, I think, were the big four that came out after this. So
I don't think I've watched Urban Legend.
Oh, it's good, man.
Oh, I've got it in my collection. I just don't think I've watched
good little film. I like the premise of that one where they do kills based off urban legends. It's pretty neat, pretty cool. Pretty good. But yeah, like I said, but compared to Scream, it's very generic,
Hmm.
straightforward slasher film. There's not too much nuance to it. So
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I've always had a special place for this film in my heart. I love this film. And, you know, given a 12-year-old me watching this film, I was, I wasn't a fan of horror like I am now, back in the day. I didn't collect or anything like that. That happened later on in life. But yeah, just something about this. And of course, like, I think at the time I had watched, like, all the Chuckies and, the child plays and stuff like that. And, of course, I was a big fan of Friday the 13th. I did love Friday the 13th, and watched Friday the 13th over Nightmare on Elm more, but I had seen the Nightmare on Elm films as well. But the name Wes Craven didn't really appeal to me watching or going into this movie, at a younger age, because I was less of a fan, and again, I didn't pay attention to big names like Ramiro, Carpenter.
I think when you're younger and a kid, you don't really pay attention to the directors. You pay attention to more the actors when you're a kid,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what you're seeing. You're not thinking about it on a technical level. You're just reacting to what you're watching as a kid, because I don't know, it's just as your mind doesn't process that as a kid. I'm like, there's some kids out there that do, don't get me wrong, but I think the majority of kids and stuff like that, they don't really see a director's name and expect anything because they're not really paying attention to that. Like most kids, they don't want to see the opening credits and stuff like that. They just want to get to the movie, So I think that makes sense, because, like I said, even when I was younger, I wasn't paying attention to directors. I was just wanting to see a movie.
Yeah.
I didn't know that directors were directing multiple films, and that I didn't have any grasp or concept of that at that age. And so that never really,
And of course, the scarier the better,
Yeah, but when you get older and when you get to where, you're a teenager and you get, into your early 20s and stuff like that, and you really start paying attention to film and the art of filmmaking, stuff like that. Yeah, directors really do, they do matter, because you look at their body of work and what they're able to do, and their history. So it makes a lot more sense to pay attention to it then. But when you're a kid, you don't care. You just want to see something happen on screen.
Yeah.
You'll notice some familiar faces, like, oh, I've seen this person in something before, and this and that, but you don't really think, oh, the director, I noticed this movie because he has this callback that he does in just about every other movie he does. You don't pick up on stuff like that.
That's why going into this watch, all the little stuff, the little nods to Wes Craven, I cheesed over, because I didn't pay attention to that as a young kid. Yeah. So even one of the lines stuck out to me where, because they made reference to a couple times, well, what if this is a movie? And then I think, what was it, Tatum said, it's like we're in a Wes Carpenter film. I was like, that's great. I love that.
Great, good. She screwed it up so bad, and it's
yeah, it worked.
It worked though, yeah. Because I don't think that's the thing about me. I don't know Tatum, because she knows kind of some stuff, but she doesn't really, like, she screws up something basic like Wes Craven and John Carpenter. So I don't know how she, but I don't care, because it's such a great line, and it's Wes poking fun at himself, and I just I like it. Cool with it, and he's down for it. So
yeah, gotta love this stuff.
Yeah, but when they were chained, I don't really know. The thing that confuses me is when Stu is attacking Sydney at her house. He really seems like he's trying to kill her. Like, he doesn't feel like he's just trying to scare her, because I know that's their plan, is to freak her out and stuff like that. But it really seems like he's trying to kill her.
I think at that point they were not just trying to freak her out, but I think that they were also trying to have her find comfort into Billy, and not suspect Billy.
Yeah,
I think that was the major portion of that scene,
Yeah.
And unfortunately his phone fell out of his pocket, and that's when she freaked
But
out.
even then, when he hugs her and he's looking intently behind her to see if Stu's still there, or he's kind of like, he did a good job, like he did exactly what I wanted him to do. Freak her out enough to where she finds solace in me when it comes to me and stuff like that. So he kind of gives a tell right there when he's staring like that, because you pick up on that as an audience member or as someone watching a movie. You're picking that up like, what the fuck was that look about? But at the end why he was given that look, like why he was doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, they can be nonverbal with each other. They can just look at each other and it kind of can tell, like, oh, I need to do this, or we need to do that, or they don't need to like vocalize it often.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just thought that was pretty interesting the way he looked after consoling her. I was looking at the door because Stu. I swear it seems like Stu is really trying to kill her, man. He really, because he's stabbing at the wall. He's going fucking ham on her, trying to get her.
Well, and again, he's so fucking clumsy that I could see him fucking up a well thought out plan.
Yeah.
And even if his intent was supposed to go in there and maybe even cut her a little bit, to where he doesn't kill her, but scares her enough by cutting her. But I mean, like, to your point, if he could have got pissed off that she was trying to get away, and he'd snap and go after her like that.
Well, you know what I noticed this time around? There's a scene afterwards, because Stu when he's Ghostface, he gets headbutted. There's a scene afterwards when they're at their lockers, and it's kind of like the focus is on Tatum and Sydney, I believe. And Stu's in his locker, like looking at his face in the mirror. And I'm like, oh shit, he's checking to see if he's got a mark because he got headbutted.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's fucking brilliant. That is really cool. Because he's really like inspecting his shit. Like, Mark, man. Because he got beat up a lot, and he was checking to see if there was any visible like shit on his face. So I'm like, that's pretty clever.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of that going on, man. I pick up on it. I'm like, damn, that's so cool. That's little tiny things that you never really notice until you're really digging deep into it and knowing who people are and what their motivations are and stuff like that. Really cool.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's what I love. Little eye detail,
Fine details. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Of him checking his face and looking, and it's good stuff, man.
Yeah. And we've even talked about it before on the show, but the scene where even like Randy is like laying on the couch, and he's the only one in the living room at this point watching Halloween, and he's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing, Jamie? He's right behind you, Jamie."
One of my favorite things ever is that little sequence.
Yeah.
So meta and so brilliant. The fact that he is talking to Jamie Lee Curtis, telling her to watch out behind her when Ghostface is behind him, and he's saying, watch out, Jamie, when the actor's name is Jamie Kennedy. That is fucking brilliant, man. That is awesome.
Yeah.
I love that, man. That is one of the coolest things. And I think that's one, because I think a stunt guy played Ghostface through a lot of the movie. That is the one time I believe that Matthew Lillard actually donned the costume and was behind. That was one scene where he actually donned the costume.
That's cool.
Yeah, because I remember him saying something about that in the panel when I was listening to the panel. Because someone asked him, I was like, well, how much % of the movie were you guys in the costume? And him and Skeet were like, well, I'd say the 80% of the time it was a stunt guy.
Mm-hmm.
But there were a couple sequences where Wesley actually let us, put the costume on and kind of walk around and be in the shots and stuff like that. So I thought that was cool. That's one distinct scene where that is actually Matthew Lillard behind Jamie Kennedy.
That's
Randy.
awesome. That's funny.
You can tell too, because that's the thing. Matthew Lillard's really, really tall. So Billy's kind of shorter. He's not as tall as Stu is. So you can kind of tell the difference between them height wise. They're donning the mask and doing. But why does Tatum have 2 beds in her room? That never really made any sense to me. She's got like she has beds like old married couples would sleep in when they each take their own bed, like back in the 40s and the 30s and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
always thought that was weird.
Well, at times, well, no, because Dewey,
And I know it's random, but I just noticed that I was like, why the fuck does she have two beds?
they're like child beds too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, they're little twin beds.
maybe that was Stewie's room as well. Like
Maybe.
they shared a room when they were younger, but now,
You know what? You're right, man, because he's got a full-time job as a police officer and a deputy, but he does still live at home with mom, so maybe he just moved into his own room because he's getting a little bit more.
I love that so much. When they're in the police station and everyone's giving him shit,
Yeah.
and he's like, you know what Mom said when I got this badge? You treat me like a man.
That's true, because we haven't really talked too much about Gail and Dewey yet, have we? So,
Yeah, the infamous love story.
yeah.
Uh,
The fact that they actually did, after this movie wrapped, they actually ended up falling in love and having kids and getting married and stuff like that. So, yeah. Or bring people together.
yeah, there you go.
It really does.
Well, that's like, and we're getting off a little subject, but you know how I'm on a Supernatural kick. I've been watching Supernatural. Turns out, like all those actors and actresses on that show are like married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I noticed a lot of those guys, the two main leads in Supernatural, they've been in a lot of horror remakes. So
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of looking at their careers. I'm like, damn, one of them did Friday the 13th. One of them did My Bloody Valentine. Like, they've been in a lot of horror remakes.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I thought that was pretty fascinating.
That's pretty cool.
And I think the other one was in the House of Wax movie. He was Jerry. I don't know who he plays on the show because I've never seen one single episode of Supernatural, but I know he's been in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Name pop up quite often. So, and then I noticed, I was like, oh shit, he's married to his co-host or his co-star, and
Yeah.
yeah,
A lot of them are.
yeah, a lot of them are married to each other. So yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. Did you notice Linda Blair?
Who was she?
She was one of the reporters. She was the one that was like, yeah, the public has a right to know, when you were trying to interview him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wanting to say I thought I recognized the face, but I didn't put two and two together.
Definitely tell with the voice.
Well, that's kind of funny that they made reference to. I wonder if that's why they made a reference to Exorcist in the film.
Yeah, I'm sure that was intentional.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's
I
funny.
saw shit. I forgot Linda Blair was in this. I always forget.
Yeah, but going back to Gale and Dewey, I love Dewey's character. I had a blast watching. I don't know what it is, but it's just so funny.
He's a goofball, man. If you
He
like
really is.
this, you're gonna love him in the sequels. I mean,
The scene where he's like when Sydney opens the door and he's like holding up Ghostface.
died every time. He scared the shit out of her.
Yeah, he's like, ah, I found this.
He's like, I found it. He's so naive, man, and it's a lot. It's,
You could definitely tell like he's probably the joke of the fucking department too.
Yeah.
But Gale,
his lieutenant, well, not the sheriff. The sheriff kind of really likes him. Doesn't give him shit. Doesn't really like when he comes up and he's eating ice cream and he's talking to him. He doesn't give him. He's like, "Oh, I see you're eating ice cream." Or he makes a little reference to it, but doesn't like get on him and harp on him about it.
yeah.
It's like, aren't you supposed to be watching like Sid and tailing her and monitoring her and everything like that? And he's like, "Oh no, it's okay. She's with my sister." And he's like, "I'm keeping an eye on him and this and that." But yeah, he's so sometimes he comes off as like inept. But the funny thing was, I love this part when you look at his desk at his office. It's filled with like kid shit. It's like he's like a big ass kid.
Yeah.
He's got like, toys and shit at his desk.
That's funny.
It's like, my God. It's like this dude never really grew up. He's a man child.
Mm-hmm.
And then when
Oh,
he's
that's
talking, she's like, I know we've done studies, and a lot of my key demographic are kids from like 18 to like 24 or something. He's like, well, I'm 25, ma'am. And he's like, then he turns around and he's like, I was 24 for a whole year. He's like, oh, so you do watch my show? He's like, yep, I was 24 for a whole year.
yeah.
Little things like that. It's just
That's
pretty
hilarious.
cool. Yeah, it's good stuff.
I like how he acts kind of badass in front of Gail, like,
Yeah.
trying to impress her. It's just hilarious. I don't like Gail's character. I don't
Oh,
care
she's
for
such
it.
a bitch in this movie, man.
She really is.
She's getting on the Kenny, poor Kenny. Giving him
Yeah.
shit about his weight. He is so unlikable.
Yeah. Get your fat ass off my van.
I mean, that, like, she literally said, come on, and then like 2 seconds later she got onto him. He's like, I had the camera and everything. I was ready to go. What the fuck are you bitching at me about?
She calls him like a tub of lard, doesn't she?
Yeah.
It's fucked.
That's fucked up, man. That's your camera guy. Usually reporters are supposed to have a good morale with their camera guy. They're not supposed to be bitches to him. Because they can make you look really good or really bad depending on their camera work. So you might want to piss him off. Just saying. Just saying.
It's funny.
But yeah, I noticed that too. I was like, oh my God. Can we talk about when Tatum goes in that garage? Boy, is it cold in there. Because my God. You can, wow.
I wonder if that was real or if that was. Yeah.
I don't know. That is so fucking distracting.
It's quite perky.
Oh my God.
Quite perky.
Wow. Her death scene's brutal too.
Yeah, it is.
He gets caught up in that garage door. Oh,
I like how she's like joking with the, which is
hot
Billy.
yeah.
But I like how she's.
She assumes it's Randy.
Mm-hmm.
She said Randy a couple times, and she's fucking with him.
Mm.
So she never really assumed that it was Billy. Poor gal. But man, she could throw a beer, and she nailed him like in the dick and in the face. Like,
Dude,
good. And he was down, man.
I was curious to wonder like how much beer she was going to carry into the house.
I was kind of curious, like, if he's getting doused in beer and shit, would anybody be able to smell it on him when he's kind of like with Sydney or something? Like, because he got doused in beer. He got hit twice.
I'm not going to lie. Your face is not going to look as pretty getting smacked in the face with a beer bottle.
Oh, not. He took a bottle to the dome, man. Like, that shit looked like it hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, damn. Shit was wild.
Pretty gnarly.
Sydney's got a mean right hook, too, man, because she punched Gail and she decked her out. Yeah, and I wrote that down. I was writing my notes. I was like, damn, Sydney's got a mean right hook. And then Dewey, right after I wrote that, said, you got a mean right hook, Sid. And I'm like, that's fucking funny. I literally said that after I wrote it down.
That's great.
Yeah. This movie's so much fun, man. I could keep going on and on about the cool little things that I've noticed. And that really... One thing I do want to bring up is that what do these kids' parents do? Because these houses are fucking beautiful, man. They're so big. They're like, man, each one of these houses. Sydney's house is great, man. When she's on the phone and she's on her deck, and you can see the hills and the and the scenery, and it's like, wow, this is fucking beautiful.
The valley
house, yeah.
It's like one house in an entire valley.
It's beautiful, man.
It really was.
Scenery, I'm like, wow, man, that would be breathtaking to live right there. I'd be on that deck all the time, just chilling, drinking, and just spotting like fucking wildlife and shit. Like, I would just be I'm completely down for that. And then Stu's house is fucking gigantic.
Yeah,
it's massive. Casey's house is pretty nice. Although it's secluded, there's no one around.
I like how convenient like all the parents are just happen to be fucking leaving town.
Yeah, leaving town.
Mm-hmm.
Leaving town, not there.
Well, my parents are out of town. We'll throw a party.
Everybody's parents are out of town except for Tatum and Dewey's parents. They're there.
Yeah. Well, the mom is there.
Yeah, who knows? The dad might have went out of town too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't really see too many parents. You see Billy's dad, as he goes to the station with him.
Yeah, and we know what happens to or what happened to Billy's mom, and of course, Sydney's mom. Once we find out.
That really is a sad scene because when Billy's like explaining that and it really gets serious for a moment, they even cut to a shot of Stu and Stu's like, "Oh shit!" Like he never even told Stu that.
Yeah,
So Stu kind of looks like, "I didn't know that." He's kind of shocked. So I thought
I wonder if that's interesting.
well,
That just leads me to believe more that he would kill Stu just to kind of tie up loose ends.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't want to think that way because I think they work so well as a pair and that they have a good friendship and this and that. So I don't want to think that he was going to kill him, but I really feel like he was.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I don't want to think that though. It kind of messes with their cool dynamic that they have, thinking that he was just going to sell his friend out and kill him just to save his own ass.
But again, like I said, and it just makes sense that the person that's helping you doesn't know your motive. Just thinks that you're whacked out. So
that's great because he's telling Sydney, she's like, why are you doing this? And he's like, I think she wants a motive, Stu. I think she wants a motive. And he's like, well, did Hannibal Lecter have a motive that he just liked eating people? Did Anthony Perkins have a motive? Like he started bringing up movies again. So it's like, this guy knows what he's talking about. I mean, he's obviously a fan of horror.
Yeah.
So.
And maybe that's what he was leading even Stu to believe. Was that he was just cracked out because of the films. Because they even make reference to somebody blaming it on the films. I forget what scene it was, but there was a reference there where they were like, yeah, let's blame it on the films.
Well, one of the best lines or one of the coolest quotes from the movie is like, C said, don't go blaming movies. Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative.
Mm-hmm.
And that came straight from Billy. So
I think that's it. That was the scene.
Yeah, obviously that meant something.
Mm-hmm.
But it's great. He's saying that while he's stabbing his buddy. That's so fucked up. Poor Stu, man.
Yeah.
So bad for him.
Good one. One thing we haven't talked about is the gore.
Oh, the gore. Well, there's not like when Steve gets killed, he gets disemboweled. That's pretty nasty.
Mm-hmm.
The effect on Tatum when she gets caught up in the garage door.
Yeah,
it's an effect. The Kenny throat slit's pretty cool. I'm a sucker for a good throat slit when it's done well, and that one's pretty good. Principal Hembry gets just stabbed a bunch of times. The Casey one's really iconic just because of the slow-mo and him chasing her and then catching up to her and then putting the knife in her.
Mm-hmm.
But you could tell, okay, so I know Billy killed Casey because Billy also has a tendency to choke people before he stabs them because he was choking Sydney a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
That's another tell when it's Billy is the choking thing. Stu doesn't do that. Stu just stabs. And I think, I think that scene with Casey is just so it's heart-wrenching because her parents are right there. She can't call out to them. She's trying to call her mom. They're going in the house. She gets dragged back. They tie her up to a tree. It really is sad, man. That's a sad scene.
I think the most brutal portion of that whole scene is where her mom can hear her basically taking her last breaths.
Oh, it's heartbreaking.
Oh, gosh, that's brutal.
Heartbreak. And then when she puts her hand up to grab the mask and take it off, she knows that's Billy. Like,
mm-hmm.
Of course, that's that's Billy killing her because of the way the way he holds the knife and everything like that. Like that's Billy. But her seeing his face and being like, "Oh my God, it's a classmate of mine that's doing this to me." That's fucked up, man.
Yeah,
it really is. But yeah, I think I've determined their body count. Or their body counts because all right, so Stu kills Steve.
Mm-hmm.
Billy kills Casey. Let's see. Principal Hembry is killed by Billy. That's another one for Billy. And Billy kills Tatum, so that's 3 for him. Stu kills Kenny, that's 2 for him. And I think there was 5 deaths in the movie, right? Body count was, well, victims. I think, yeah, because Steve, Casey. I'm trying to think. Yeah, because I mapped out who was doing what. I think it's 5 that they did. Principal.
One off camera.
Oh no, because Billy killed Sidney's mom too. Yeah.
There you go.
Yep. So Billy did the majority of the killing. Stu did a couple, but
which again, you know, right there proves Billy's the mastermind. He's the lead, and Stu's just following along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stu mainly killed the guys. He didn't really kill the girl.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's
and Stu could have really been a backup plan too. If things went south.
I kind of think that they were killing before this went down too. Like, I don't think they just killed Mrs. Prescott, Sidney's mom. I think they killed other people too. I don't know, because it seemed like they just were really. It didn't seem like they were just going about this the first time. Like they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
Planned it out.
Well,
I mean,
again, the movies made Billy what he was, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see more. I don't know. For some reason, I feel like they've done this before. They've kind of went off on a not spree, like they've killed multiple people, but I feel like they have a couple more bodies hidden somewhere or something. Possible. Anything's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Based on the way they hold the blade, based on their mode or their movements and stuff like that, that's how I could determine who was who when they were killing. So
Interesting. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it now.
yeah, just watch. You'll see when Stu's attacking Sidney, he puts his hands up like that with the knife in his hand. He'll do that again at the house.
When he stabs Billy, like fake stabs him.
Yeah.
He holds the knife up.
Billy's weird because he holds the blade in his right hand, but he kind of holds it like this. You'll notice that at the end too. He's holding it like
because he jabs it like.
Yeah, jabs him like that. That's how he holds the blade. So it's really distinctive how he holds the blade.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of got his own kind of. Yeah, that's what's interesting. They give these killers like more character. They're not just generic, like slashing away and doing this and doing that. No, they hold a blade a certain way. They attack a certain way. They have certain tendencies. And I think that's pretty cool. I don't think that's a credit that they don't give Craven enough for molding these characters. And I think that's something that's sadly not looked at very often. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah. And I think you can definitely tell when Billy's killing Tatum, because when he goes to, after he goes to he cuts her arm at first, but he cleans his knife off.
Thank you, dude. That's another thing I wanted to bring up, the knife cleaning. You'll see that a couple times. But Stu does that too after he pretends to stab Billy, remember? He cleaned the blade too. So I'm like, did they both do?
I don't know. I wouldn't see a clumsy person doing that. I would see somebody who's like very neat and meticulous.
Well, because Stu did that toward the end, so maybe kind of Billy told him like, "Hey, dude, clean." I don't know. Maybe he kind of. I don't know. That's a good point. Because I noticed that too. They clean the blade sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Another kind of little quirk that they have. Yeah. This movie's so fascinating. It's so
interesting. It really is interesting.
People just talk about it as like a generic little meta horror film, but there's so much more going on.
Yeah, it's really there's character study here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. And then at the end, when Sidney's trying to decide on who's telling the truth, Stu or Randy, when she's locking them out the house, they're like, no, they're pointing the finger at each other. She's like, fuck you both, and she shuts the door and locks it. Then Billy comes staggering upstairs and falling down the stairs and shit.
Yeah.
It's a great sequence of framing, and just it's really, really cool.
I'm wondering why at that moment did Stu not kill Randy right there on the front porch?
That's a good point. I don't know. Maybe they were going to have him as a fallback plan, dude. I don't know.
I really think so.
They had opportunities to snuff him out quite a few times.
Yeah.
Never took. Another thing, I was surprised that cheerleader in the bathroom when she's talking all the shit. I'm surprised she wasn't a victim.
Mm-hmm.
She was a bitch, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
She really was. She was fucking brutal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that she didn't end up getting killed.
I wonder if Stu was waiting, because that was Stu in the bathroom.
That was not. I don't think it was. I don't think that was either Billy or Stu. I think that was, because you saw those guys running around the school in the mask, fucking freaking people out. Because you notice when that person's in the bathroom and attacks Sydney, they don't have a knife. There's just a person fucking around, and there's no weapon or anything. And if it was Stu or Billy, I think they would have had a blade on him.
Hmm.
And that plus, if you notice afterwards, the person's wearing like black jeans, but when you see Billy and Stu, they're not wearing black jeans and boots. Yeah, because I thought about that's why I'm bringing this up, because I thought about that quite a few times. And I was like, I didn't notice the knife in their hand. They're clumsy, so that kind of would make you assume that it is either. You probably think it was Stu, because that is clumsy. It's a clumsy person, because they slip and fall and shit. But I think that was honestly somebody that was fucking around and joking around, because those two assholes that were scaring everybody in the school, running around like dumbasses.
Mm-hmm.
And then I love the little red herring thing with the principal when he's like threatening them with the fucking scissors. It's great.
Oh man,
it's so great. Fonz killed that shit. He was awesome.
I love Henry Winkler.
It's great to see him in this, man.
Mm-hmm.
And for him to actually die, it's crazy. Him actually a victim in a horror film. It's like who would think that Fonz is going to be in a horror film and be a victim? I don't know. He's just
I really wish he would have done more horror in his career.
Honestly, I do too. I really do.
I think he would have been good at it.
I think it's just crazy that Craven got him to play the principal in this.
Yeah.
So
it's definitely out of his realm of norm.
Yeah.
And what's even cool is like when we went to Mad Monster a few years back, he was there. You remember seeing him?
Well, Craven?
Yeah. No, Henry Winkler.
Oh, no, I don't remember seeing him.
You don't remember him? Oh
No.
man. Yeah, he was. I even said hi to him because he passed by me. But he was not at his table. He was next to Doyle from the Misfits.
Dope.
Yeah, he was.
I'm hanging out with Doyle from the Misfits. That's fucking cool.
We were in line to go meet Sid Haig. Remember, it was that long, ridiculous line that we waited like an hour in.
Yeah.
And we walked in the room, and there was Henry Winkler. He wasn't sitting at his table. He was just kind of up mingling around with people.
Cool, man.
Yeah. And like I said, he passed by me. I was like, "Hey, Henry."
Damn, I kind of wish I brought some stuff for him to sign.
Yeah. I mean, this would have been a perfect moment to have him sign it.
Yeah.
Because it's not every day that you see the Fonz at a horror convention.
No, seriously though, how cool is just the image of the Fonz hanging out with Doyle from fucking the Misfits, talking to him?
It was pretty cool.
How cool is that?
Yeah. I just remember standing there looking at Doyle going, God, that's a big fucking guy.
He's huge, dude. He is massive. And
his fucking arm is the size of my head.
The guy's in his 60s too, man. His late 60s. He looks great for his age.
Yeah.
Holy shit. He's like a vegan, so that probably has a lot to do with it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. That's wild, dude. Fucking, that's crazy. Nah, I kind of regret that now. I didn't get anything signed.
Yeah.
Missed opportunity.
Oh man, you never know.
Oh.
He's still alive. He might make a comeback.
Well, Jamie Kennedy, Skeet Ulrich, and Matthew Lillard are doing a lot of conventions now, so to get to sign something would be pretty sick.
Well, I think Neve Campbell was.
Neve too.
Yeah, she was at Mad Monster like 2 years ago or last year.
Mm-hmm. And I honestly could see why Sydney is a lot of people's favorite final girl. I can see it because she really is ballsy. Like when she goes outside when they're threatening her on the phone, and she's like, "Where you guys at?" I'm like, "That's fucking dope." She don't give a shit, man.
No,
she is not playing no games, dude.
No,
she's ready to go. So that kind of gave me some respect for her character. Like, okay, you know, 2 people just in your class got killed.
Mhm.
Someone's calling you, threatening you on the phone, and you just go outside to call their bluff. Come on, man, that's
Yeah,
pretty.
well,
bold.
see, that's something that wasn't released to anyone, so no one knew that the killers called. So it was
No,
it was
it's not
oblivious to
even,
her.
it's not even that. It's just the timing of it. Like 2 of your classmates died. Someone's threatening you on the phone. That's the timing
Well,
of.
at the time, they really weren't threatening, so she just thought they were fucking with her. You know, I think the serious tone was all of a sudden, oh shit, I need to get upstairs. But even she made a reference to she doesn't like scary movies because some big-breasted bimbo,
Great line.
instead of
Great.
going out the front door, goes right up the stairs.
What does she do? She goes right up the stairs.
Well, she went out the door at first.
She does, but then she goes right up the stairs.
Yeah,
I fucking love it, man.
yeah.
But yeah, she does think it's Randy because she's talking to. She's like, "Oh, Randy, you're not fooling anybody," and this, and that. So she does think it's Randy on the phone.
Hmm.
A lot of people just assume it's Randy. Tatum just assumed it was Randy. She just assumed it was Randy. Randy must have had like that reputation.
Well, for some reason, everyone seems to think that he's just the horror guy in the movie. He's really not. There's 2 others that are fans of the genre, and they make reference to it quite often.
That girl comes up to him in the video store. What's the werewolf movie with E.T.'s mom? Oh, Howling. This section or whatever. It's like that's.
I love it.
I was like, that reminds me of Corey when you were working for someone come in there ask you for something, like you're like, oh, this down this aisle or whatever. You know
Yeah.
exactly what it was. But
They'd ask me about some drama. I'm like, I don't. Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. But I love seeing a video store in a movie. I always do.
Always.
Brings back
Yeah.
nostalgia.
So much. Especially like when they're walking around looking. That place is packed, dude.
Yeah, there's a what do you say? There's a mass run in the murder section or something like that when he's talking about the people.
Yeah.
Because I love when Stu comes up behind him and goes, "Ooh!" It scares him and the tapes flying. He's such an ass. You gotta love it though, man.
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah, man, why is this place so packed? Oh, there's a huge because all the stuff is going on. There's a huge run in the murder section. Like they don't care, man. They have 0 fucks.
No.
They don't.
I
give a
go,
fuck.
somebody died. We need to watch this movie on how people die.
Yeah. Well, Randy doesn't seem to care either. Like he's making jokes about her liver being in the mailbox and her spleen tasted or whatever. And it's like,
Yeah.
so tasteful. All these jokes.
Yeah. That was good stuff.
No, it's great.
Like I said, yeah, hands down, the writing is phenomenal, but it's
brilliant.
delivered by the actors and everything. I mean, everything's perfect. Even the score, you know, all the music in the film is great. You even brought that up to me, the other day, didn't you? On
the Blue Oyster Cult thing.
Yeah, the Blue Oyster Cult.
I thought about that because I had just watched Halloween not too long ago. And of course, there's the iconic scene when Laurie and
Annie.
Yeah, Annie Brackett in the car, and they're smoking and they're listening to "Don't Fear the Reaper" on the radio. Well, when Billy's in Sydney's room and they're getting kind of a little hot and heavy, there's a rendition of "Don't Fear the Reaper" being played, but it's like super slowed down.
Mm-hmm.
Barely hear it, but you can hear the tempo. And you can hear and you're like, oh, that's "Don't Fear the Reaper." I was like, that's cool, man. I never noticed that before. I just thought it was some ambient music in the background, but I was like listening to it this time. I was like, I hear the lines in the song, and I'm like, that's fucking "Don't Fear the Reaper." Played it down so slow, and I'm sure it was like a cover. And yeah, you would barely notice it if you didn't know that song and listen to that song before. So.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty neat, man.
Because don't they even play Alice Cooper in it too? School's Out.
Yeah, School's Out. Yeah, School's Out. Man, so cool.
Yeah,
it's getting played.
I love it.
And it's on like a radio speaker,
Mm-hmm.
or like outside of someone's window and stuff like that. I'm like, that's such a neat little image. That's something you don't see every day, like a speaker outside a window, someone blaring music. You don't see that anymore.
Yeah.
90s thing, man.
Yeah.
And then even the scene where they're in the grocery store. I love scenes in grocery stores from a time past where you see old like products and stuff like that, and you're like, oh, those products don't look like that anymore. They've changed the branding on them so much, and it's just, I don't know, man. It was so cool. They're getting ice cream out of the freezer.
Mhm.
Ghosts just following them around and shit out in the middle of daylight, which I'm like, that's pretty ballsy that either Stu or Billy is following them around during the daylight when there's a curfew going on. They could get picked up by the police. There's police out everywhere, and they're running the risk of running around stalking people in the costume.
Mhm.
That's pretty ballsy. That could have messed up
Yeah.
their plan if they would have got picked up.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought about that. I'm like, well, it was a risk I don't know if I would have been willing to take.
Mhm. But again, they were young and kind of inexperienced in this. You know.
They kind of maybe doing all this is getting more cocky and getting a little bit more reckless.
True. I could definitely see that they were getting cocky. They were definitely getting cocky towards the end, and they were all, in my opinion, they were always kind of reckless.
Yeah, because I don't know why Stu put the gun down. He should put the gun down.
Yeah.
I don't know why he did that. It was bad.
Again, and to what you said, I mean, you look at the body count. The body count wasn't all on him.
Oh, for sure.
You know, I mean, he only killed like 2 people. So there again, the inexperience there. I mean, you lay a gun down to do something else, you know. So
I'm thinking about it. That had to have been Stu on the phone that called Tatum and Dewey's house to talk to Sydney. How dumb would it have been for Billy to use this one phone call in a police station to threaten Sydney on the phone? Like that doesn't make any sense. I find it hard to believe with people watching him that he's able to call that house and threaten. I just don't see it, man. I think that was Stu.
yeah.
That had to have been Stu. But
Yep.
that's the brilliant thing about another thing about Ghostface's voice, that you get Roger Jackson, somebody that's not Skeet Ulrich or Matthew Lillard, to be the voice, because you don't expect, even when they have the voice box thing and they're talking, you can tell their tone and their voice when they're talking on that thing. But the brilliant thing is Roger Jackson's voice on the phone. So you never know who the fuck it was. Even if they did like forensics and try to check the voice, match the voice to people, you wouldn't know because it's a different person.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's fucking smart. There's no tell from that. So
Yeah.
I don't know. But there's a lot of small things that really worked with this movie that they did brilliantly, and we can keep on and on and on. We can jerking this movie off. I'm not saying anything. We're not saying anything negative about this movie.
No.
Come on, it's fucking Scream.
Yeah.
Everybody knows loves Scream, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I have a great appreciation for it. I need to watch it more often, to tell you the truth.
One of the best horror films that come out of the 90s.
Yeah.
It's Scream, dude. Shit, got the best characters, the best dialogue.
Well, I think we can relate to the characters too, you know.
Horror fans, so.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to kill people, but we notice the jokes and stuff. We get the references to the movies. We know the werewolf movie with E.T. that starred E.T.'s mom. I love when Sydney's looking through the tapes that they have at Stu's party. She's like, Terror Train, Prom Night. Why is Jamie Lee Curtis always in all these movies? And Randy's like, 'cause she's a scream queen. And and they're talking about the size of her, her chest and everything like that. And Stu's like, yeah, with a set of lungs like that, she's got to be a scream queen. Making a joke about her, the size of her, and Jamie Kennedy Randy says, they're like, when did Jamie Lee Curtis show her rack? And he's like, not until Trading Places in '83. She didn't show her tits until she became legit. So I was like, that is a fucking great line. I don't care what anyone says. I love it.
That's perfect.
It's perfect. It's perfect
Mhm.
for the character because he's a kind of a sleazeball in a sense because, you know, you can just tell he's one of those guys.
Mhm.
But also, it's just like these characters are likable, man. They're memorable. These are memorable characters. I mean,
They really are. Definitely.
there's a reason these guys, the actors that portray these characters, are doing so many conventions now, and their lines are getting blown out. And people are wanting to meet them because they
Mhm.
deliver iconic lines in a very iconic movie.
Mhm. Who is your favorite character?
Oh, Brandy and Stu, both of them. I love them both so much. I think they're fucking great characters.
Yeah.
I mean, people that know our podcast know our love for Randy and our ongoing joke with Randy, and you know, they know that. They know how we have an affinity for Randy. But Stu, when I watched this movie, and I watched it the last couple times, Stu just elevates his character more and more every time I watch it.
Yeah.
Just brilliant. His lines, the way Matthew Lillard delivers his lines in this movie is unprecedented. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't see. It's one of those things where it's hard to picture another actor in that role.
Oh, any of the roles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over-
Any of the roles.
He's so over the top with his dialogue.
Mhm.
Just little things he does, like when he's when Randy's talking to him in the video store, and he's like, "You think Sid will go out with me?" He does that little laugh thing, and he covers his mouth. He's like, "No, I don't. Don't think you would. I don't think she'd give you the time of day, man."
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's definitely between Randy and Stu. I love those two characters. What about you?
I'm torn between the two.
No, I think they're just the best.
Yeah. That and Dewey. I think those are the top three for me.
I thought you were going to say Dewey.
Yeah. I think all three of those. I think it would be Randy, Matt Lillard's character, Stu, and then Dewey.
And Dewey. Okay.
Yeah.
Not bad. Not a bad lineup.
Least favorite, Gail Weathers.
Yeah, well, she was such a bitch in this one, man.
I did not like her character one bit.
Mean.
And I like Courtney Cox as an actor. I think she's a phenomenal actress. But yeah, just even her hair got under my skin for some reason. Like,
you think her hair is bad in this one? You just wait until you get into the sequels, man. There's like a meme about her hair with the sequels, and you just wait. So you think it's bad? You think it's weird now or bad? Just wait. That's all I'm saying.
That's awesome.
You haven't seen that meme, have you?
No.
Okay, all right. I'll leave that one then.
Send it to me.
I will.
But yeah, you want to get into ratings, man?
Sure, man. Absolutely.
All right, I'm gonna let you. What you rate this thing?
It's just really anticlimactic. I mean, you have to give Scream 5 out of 5. It's 10 out of 10. This is the definitive. Well, I wouldn't say the definitive horror film of the 90s. It's literally one of the best horror films of the 90s, bar none.
Oh yeah.
As far as everything, the direction, Wes Craven's camera work, his editing. I mean, just the script is brilliant. Dialogue, brilliant. The acting, phenomenal. Everybody across the board. There's not one weak performance in this movie. To me, anyway. I don't feel. Even people say, "Oh, Tatum's not really." I think Tatum's fine. I like Rose McGowan. I don't think there's anything wrong with Tatum. It helps that she's super attractive. But yeah, I love this movie, man. I watch Scream all the time. What I'll do is if I'm on the phone, I'm on YouTube. I'll literally Google or I'll literally YouTube opening act of Scream and the ending act of Scream and watch it just because they're so brilliant. acting is just phenomenal. The lines, the meta. I don't think you can get a better meta horror film. I don't think they're ever going to make a better meta horror film, honestly.
No.
Be on par with this one. Yeah, this is 5 out of 5 easily.
Right on. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Everything about this film, the way it was written, you like you said earlier, you can't see this film acted by anybody else, but it goes further than that. I don't think it could have been written by anyone else. I don't think it could have been directed by anyone else. I don't think the score could have been done by anyone else. I mean, everything about this film is it's perfect.
In a lot of ways, like Halloween, it's all the stars align, and it's like Halloween. And to me, Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, these movies are perfect horror films where stars align, everything falls into place. That's great. That makes for such an iconic film. I mean, it screams right up there with the two. I just think, like, I really don't think if you would have tweaked anything else or took anything out of this movie, it really would have showed because of how strong the levels of performances and how just everybody's on their A game when this movie was made. And the fact of the matter is that they were on their A game when this movie was made and no one had any faith in it. Just blows my mind.
Yeah.
That just goes to show how true professional all the actors, all of everybody was, that they literally had no faith in this movie, but put out something so iconic. I mean, it just really goes to show that their professionalism, Wes's professionalism, just everybody just firing on all cylinders. And like I said, the stars aligning and the universe sprouting out something that's perfect. I mean, it happens every once in a while in horror and in films. I mean, a mainstream person will say, "Oh, horror's garbage, this, and that." I'm like, no, dude, if you really devote yourself to really studying the genre and really going through and watching films, and there's some movies that just stand out so much more than others and that are just shining examples of great achievements, and that this just happens to be one of them. It's just everybody, it's just a perfect storm, like lightning in a bottle. Everything's perfect, and it came out this way. So yeah, we've been blowing Scream tonight. We rarely do this, but when we're talking about some of our favorite movies to ever come out, I'm gonna explain why I think it's one of the greatest horror films ever made.
Oh yeah, and I think it stems to, I think this film was made for the fan. It really was. I don't think there was no accident there. I think that was purely intentional. And I think it was even written and directed to poke fun a little, at some stuff, only for the horror fan to actually catch on.
I think about it a lot, and at this point in the 90s, Wes had already been typecast as the horror director. So he knew he had been typecast with his career. He couldn't really venture out and do anything else other than horror. So I think maybe a lot of the reason why he did this movie was because he was kind of poking fun at his career, and the script put in a lot of like in jokes about his career and who he was as a director. And you can only, I'm sure at that point he'd heard so much about, you're one of the greatest horror film directors of all time. You're a master of horror. You're this and that. So I'm sure part of him was getting tired of hearing that, and he was just wanting to make something that can kind of joke on his career and just kind of ease the like crazy fanatical people that are just giving him so much praise all the time. And because like I said, at that point, and that's another thing, at that point, like Craven hadn't had a big hit really since Nightmare. So Nightmare came out in '84. It's been that long since he had a big hit. I mean, Shocker was not what everybody thought it was going to be. A lot of people love People in the Stairs, and I think it's great, but I don't think it was a financial success like Nightmare on Elm Street was. So he didn't really have a lot. I think Miramax and everybody was taking like a chance on this movie, and they just didn't expect anything to happen with it. They were just making something, and the fact that I think Drew Barrymore had a lot to do with it too. I'll give her credit. A lot of people check this movie out because of her name. People were coming to this movie to see Drew Barrymore in a movie, and God, I can't imagine being in the theaters and having somebody. Drew's going to be the main character, and then seeing the opening scene and watching her die, and they're like, their mind just being blown, like they didn't expect that to happen. Because at that point, people aren't thinking about Psycho and what Alfred Hitchcock did. I mean, they're not really thinking about that. They're thinking about
that.
hey,
With that being said, there was another iconic name with this film, and that was Courtney Cox, because Friends was so popular.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, for sure. And like I said, I think this was right up into Party of Five when Neve Campbell was really starting to get some resonance, and because that was kind of going around the same time this was. So I know Skeet and Matthew Lillard did say that after this movie wrapped, like a lot of people, like Courtney went back to doing Friends, and Neve went back to Party of Five, and a lot of them went back to their a lot of television stuff and everything like that. So they were just doing a movie kind of like for fun, and they went back to TV stuff because at that point TV was booming. A lot of TV was big, like Friends was huge, and Party of Five was on the cusp of getting massive, and a lot of them, that's what their career was at the time, when they just like, oh, we'll make a few extra bucks and be in this little horror film. But who would have thought like their careers, that they're still getting paid for autographs and stuff like that because of this movie? It's cool. Sometimes it's cool how the universe comes together and kind of things pan out. And, it's really cool. It's a cool story.
Definitely.
I honestly want to watch a documentary on the making of Scream and how everybody's careers were kind of affected by this and how things went. And yeah, it would just be really.
I'm kind of curious to see if there's stuff out there, like even some stuff from Wes Craven, like some behind the scenes, and then maybe even like an interview with Wes Craven about this film. I'd like to really find out if there's an interview. Yeah.
Well, I know I watched the director spotlight on Wes Craven where they talk about, I can't remember what the series was called, but I think it was called it's called Postmortem, where Mick Garris kind of interviews like the masters of horror, the directors. Like he did one on Tobe Hooper, John Carpenter, Wes Craven, and the Wes Craven one was like a two-parter. And then when he was getting into his career, when he got up to Scream and stuff like that, he did talk a lot about Scream. And I did hear from him where he's like, we didn't expect much from this movie, and then it became a massive hit. And the cool thing about Craven was he directed all of the Scream sequels after this. A lot of directors would like go off and like someone else would take the reins and direct it. No, Craven, this was his baby. He directed Scream 1, he directed Scream 2, he directed Scream 3, and he directed Scream 4, and then sadly he passed away, and then another director, well, two directors directed Scream 5, so it's in somebody else's hands now, but this was his baby. This franchise is his baby. Like, he's directed all of them. So, well, except for 5. That's because he sadly passed away. Or he probably would be directing 5 if he were still alive, so.
Yeah. Didn't you say 6 is in the works right now?
6 is in the works right now. The same guys that directed Scream 5 are directing Part 6. But the crazy thing about this one is that Neve Campbell's not going to be in it. So, yeah, this is the first Scream that she's not going to be in.
Interesting.
Because she is as synonymous with this franchise as Ghostface is. So the fact that Neve Campbell's not going to be involved is kind of crazy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, wild stuff, man. I think it was a dispute on pay, whether she was getting paid right, which is sad because I mean, she should get paid. She's the face of this franchise. I mean, she's the final franchise. Pay her.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, I don't. Yeah, it's easy for me to say. I'm not writing any checks, so I'm just coming off of it as a fan. Like, it would just be weird not to have fucking Sidney Prescott in Scream 6. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But
yeah, I wonder how that's gonna pan out. I hope they don't get another actress.
It's going to be interesting considering what happened in Scream 5. I'll just say that.
I wouldn't know. I need to watch them.
That's why I'm not saying anything. I'm just going to leave that as vague as possible. I'm not saying anything else after that.
Appreciate that.
No problem, man. I won't spoil them for you.
Oh, well, you ready to land it?
We're both on 5 for Scream.
Yeah, both on 5 for Scream.
All right.
Locked in.
I'm good with it, man.
That's pretty good.
Oh, yeah, it is.
All right. Well, folks, we appreciate you joining us, and we hope we didn't ruin it for you if you hadn't watched it. Sorry. Yeah. Spoiler: there is 2 killers.
We went into heavy spoilers on this one.
Yeah, we did. I think we completely dissected this this film. So we apologize if we ruined anything for you. I didn't know if it was on Tubi or anything like that. I didn't check. Might have been. I don't know.
It should be everywhere. It should be really easy to find Scream.
Yeah. So, but we appreciate you, and make sure that you like, share, and subscribe our episodes. Make sure you tell your friends, families, and loved ones about us, and head over to our Facebook group where we post memes. We keep in contact with you guys, and ultimately you can see our next video pop up there. But yeah, just we like to have fun in there, so join us, ask us, and we'll let you in. It is a closed group. Tony, you got anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to shout out everybody that leaves comments in our comment section for our YouTube. We recently had, me and Corey were kind of talking about this. This is really big for us. We're huge fans of the band Skeleton Witch. Huge fan of Skeleton Witch. And they were nice enough to reach out on one of our episodes and drop a comment. And that just means so much to us, man, being fans of that band and following their career. I'm just elated. I'm honored that they were able to drop a comment. That's just so cool. So I want to thank the guys at Skeleton Witch. Just huge props to you guys. I said, I love your music. Been a big fan since Beyond the Permafrost. Love you guys' stuff. So thank you guys so much for that. Thank you listeners for everybody dropping comments and even in the Facebook group, dropping comments, talking, having discussions with us. It really means a lot to us. Like I said, you guys are why we do this, man. We like to talk movies and hear about you guys and what your opinions are, and it really means a lot to us. So the fact that we're getting a lot of that recently, and it goes so, it goes without saying that we really appreciate all you guys. So thank you. Tell you guys thank you so much.
Definitely. Yeah, we continue, through you guys. So we definitely appreciate it. And yeah, we were cheesing quite a bit. That Skeleton Witch reached out to us. I was blown away.
That was one of the coolest things, man. I could not believe that at all.
Really?
Blown
Really?
away. Just so.
And if you're fans of the genre and you haven't heard of Skeleton Witch, go check them out, because they sing a lot about horror. It's pretty much like a horror based or themed band.
They're a fucking badass band. And yeah, if you can go check out Skeleton Witch, they are fucking sick, man. I really want to see them live. I've been wanting to go see them live for the longest time. So whenever I get a chance, whenever they're around the Columbia area or even around Atlanta, Charlotte, anywhere around our area, I would love to go see them live. Those guys kick so much ass.
Definitely. Well, folks, we appreciate you. Later, guys.
You guys.